Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to another story. Now, this one is called I Think I Had My First Glitch in the Matrix Encounter Today. Now, sit back, relax, and listen. Something very strange happened this morning, and funny enough, it's on April Fool's. I woke up this morning around 3:30 a.m. to get ready for work at my own leisure. Honestly, I laid in bed till about 5 a.m. It was time to get it was time for me to get ready for work. Well, I kept leaving my room in for a shower, brushing my teeth, breakfast, etc. Then it was dark outside. There was no light illuminating through the windows. Absolutely nothing. It was blacker than your pants pockets outside. I went back and forth into my room a good 3 or 4 times. Now, it was getting chilly outside and my windows was open. I have blackout curtains in my room, and so I pushed them aside, and it's absolutely bright outside. And I was only in my room for 3 minutes since I last saw darkness. I almost stood in fear for about a minute, shocked. And I went to the kitchen, and sure, it was bright outside. I was completely shocked. I couldn't, co- I couldn't comprehend how something like this happened. But for a while, I kind of think I kind of just took it as maybe misjudged what happened. Thought less time passed when I actually did. Fast forward to the end of the day. I get online on my PlayStation and I'm talking with my girlfriend and our friend. He tells us this weird situation he had today where he feels like he lost the grasp of time or something really weird happened. There's no point in describing what happened in this story because his story and Nye's were almost identical down to the time. I've never actually had an experience with something like this before. I thought I was going crazy till he told me that story. And then I told him mine. Has anyone had a similar situation ever happen before? Any skeptics able to maybe put an alternative spin on this? It's just I've never seen darkness go to full sky illumination that fast in my life. It was gradual at like how a day-night cycle really is. Pure darkness to pure light in a matter of 3 minutes or less. This next story is called God May Have Messed Up. I was just laying in bed thinking because I had nothing better to do. Then I heard in a very clear, crisp voice, unless God messed up. And it was loud. It wasn't like any other of my thoughts. It was even more clear than how someone would talk to me in real life. Like someone could peer into my head and reply to my thoughts. I don't know exactly I don't exactly remember what I was thinking about at that time, but it spooked me. Is it a devil? A jinn? Like in the stories trying to make me do bad. It's just a voice in my head. Was I meant to hear that? Nevertheless, it's still a little spooky how clear that voice was. And it wasn't a whisper like in the movies. My brother was the only other person in the room and he was fast asleep. Even even if he wasn't, how could he hear my thoughts? I didn't say anything. This last story is called The Garden. I recently moved with my aunt, an uncle, and my cousin into their 2-story home. They had a large garden in their backyard that they never took care of. And it was a complete mess with dead plants and tree branches along with worms. I asked them about it and they said that their dog, Christy, keeps barking at something in it. It must have been the neighbor's cat or a squirrel, they said. And I took another glance at the garden and saw a dead tree branch move a little bit, but didn't think much of it, and unpacked all my stuff. It soon became dusk, and we had dinner and got ready for bed around 9 p.m. I took my last glance at the garden and I saw something move. I took a closer look, and there was nothing so much for being paranoid. I had insomnia problems, so I couldn't sleep. The thought of what's lurking in the garden was stuck inside my mind all night long. I eventually fell asleep around midnight and thinking about the garden with curiosity. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of barking coming from the backyard. I walked over to the window and saw Christy barking at something inside the garden. I had to walk all the way downstairs to the garden. "What's wrong, Christy?" I asked. She didn't respond and kept barking at something. I then heard a large growl and a large skinny hand come out and grab my leg. I screamed for help out loud. Christy tried to pull me, but it was no use to the louder scream. The tighter the grip got. The creature had glowing eyes and a deformed body which gave me shivers. Mrs. James, our neighbor, looked over her fence to check out what was going on. She saw that I was in trouble and called my uncle. Everyone came downstairs to see what was going on. I yelled for help, and my uncle came over with an axe and chopped off the creature's arm and loosened its strong grip. I ended up with a large bruise on my leg and was sent to the hospital for medication. The next day, my aunt looked up the house's history and we found out a shocking secret. A boy was murdered and then buried alive by his father in the same exact place where the garden is. Alright, that will conclude these stories for today. I hope you guys like them a lot. Go check out my podcast, Undiscovered Talks. And if you're watching this on my podcast or listening to this on my podcast, go check out my YouTube, JX Reaper, where the same quality content is made. I hope you guys have a nice week, and don't forget to sit back, relax, and listen.